This came up on the YouTube feed a little while ago. From the Aesthetic City, they're building Europe's first traditional architecture school. This sounds promising. Let's take a look.
This 400-year-old farm is about to become something no one expected. In the heart of a medieval village, located in the Alsace in France, this farm will be transformed into Europe's first traditional architecture and crafts school. But why is the school necessary and how will they achieve it?
I think we know why.
You'll hear the story of Nadia and Noé and how they started an association to make our cities and architecture more beautiful, durable and humane, as our built environment is increasingly filled with industrial concrete boxes.
Yeah,
I went
that's
to
no
the
good.
Alsace to visit the school, to see the village and the region, and to explore the local craftsmanship. I even went deep underground into a sandstone quarry to see the source of the materials they intend to use for beautiful, long-lasting buildings.
That's fantastic.
And at the end, we'll discover how this small initiative could have a worldwide impact. So
it really could. It's one of those things where, who was it? Dostoevsky, who said, "Beauty will save the world." This has the potential to save the world. Jess, welcome in. Restoration of traditional architecture and historical buildings in Hungary, Poland, Czechia, Bulgaria, and Russia, I believe, will be to Europa's future benefit. They really will. They absolutely will. When future generations walk back the mistakes made in our time and the mistakes that led there. Yeah. And the good news is that a lot of these, brutalist, so-called modern architectural structures, they can be renovated and transformed into something that looks much more traditional. Industrial brutalist shit, yeah. Yeah, we've had all we can stand of that. No more of that.
Let's get started. Not far from the city of Strasbourg, between vineyards for the Crémant wine and countless cherry orchards, lies the charming small village of Westhoffen. And right in its middle, surrounded by half-timbered houses with stone gates, close to the old castle on one of its many crooked roads, lies this beautiful 400-year-old farmstead. It's in this stunning building that a new architecture school will open its doors very soon.
That's a good spot for that.
Welcome to Westhoffen. So to this farm, which will soon be a school of architecture and crafts.
So this farm is from the 17th century and it used to be a livestock farm. So
a 17th century farm. And it's still standing. And it still looks incredible. We can't really say the same for a lot of modern structures. Especially ones built, I would say, in the last, 10, 20 years. Mainly because a lot of those were never built to last. This was built to last. And still looks beautiful even today. Also, how stereotypically on point it would be the French doing something like this. That tracks.
So it hosted big animals and a butchery shop. And we are going, with the association La Table Ronde de l'Architecture, to transform it into a school of architecture and crafts.
But before we hear more about the plans for this school, we need to take a small step back. Because why is the school necessary in the first place? Well, our cities and the world of architecture are facing three individual crises.
This farm is older than the US by probably a century. Yes. Close to it, yeah.
Combining into one perfect storm. And this school is meant to be a part of the solution for all three of them. The first crisis is that architecture is broken.
Yeah, I'd say so. You go into downtown area, a business district, and you find this. And you find that most places look like this. Indistinguishable from one another. And completely lacking in any sort of character and soul. It's incredible, absolutely.
Cities are getting uglier, with cookie-cutter concrete blocks arising everywhere.
Yeah, just look
Buildings
at that. That's
today
awful.
Often only last a few decades before being torn down.
That building there.
Buildings today often
Structure was only 20 years old, and they're knocking it down. That's pathetic. That was posted in r/Denver on Reddit. So a modern structure, modern office building in Denver, Colorado, and they just knocked it down. Denver, hell itself, yeah. Very quickly turning into that, isn't it?
And only last a few decades before being teared down. Construction is one of the most polluting industries, with enormous amounts of waste and many toxic materials, both when they are produced, but also when used, and after being discarded. Meanwhile, many architects are not interested in creating buildings that are loved
Look at that, is awful.
by a majority of the population.
That is awful. This on the left, this is beautiful. Especially with these arches on the windows and they're on the ground level. That's a box. That's a soulless box. I've worked in places like that. It's depressing. The amount the world wastes on building concrete shit is insane, just thinking of the Chinese ghost cities alone, yes. And got some videos up about that, both on the YouTube page and also on the Rumble page. Definitely go check those out, please. LordRexworth.com. LordRexworth.com. Links to both the Rumble page and the YouTube page. Check out those videos and also give me a follow across all platforms.
But in expressing their oversized ego.
Yeah, it's just a lot of these so-called architects, especially the modern ones, it's a gigantic dick-stroking contest for them. It's like how some nouveau riche types will buy a really expensive luxury car, sports car, to overcompensate for the fact that they have a tiny penis. Architects do it different. They design monstrosities of buildings to overcompensate for the fact that they've got tiny little penises and oversized, and ego so oversized as a miracle they can get their heads through any doors. Takes at least a year to build and torn down such a short time later, absolutely. Not a fan of how big the windows are in terms of how big of a void they represent in the brickwork, but it might be because I'm used to more stuff between windows.
Second crisis is a crisis of knowledge. Most architecture schools focus on conceptualizing spaces, developing ideas, and on how to present or sell one's ideas. The focus is on experiment, innovation, and personal creative expression. However, there's a number of skills that are overlooked or even fully ignored. Proportion systems, geometry, the true understanding of raw materials, how they are processed, and how craftsmen turn them into buildings. Cooperation with craftsmen is virtually non-existent in architecture schools today. Studying ornament is out of the question, because ornament is crime, measured in schools today. Studying ornament is out of the question, because ornament is crime.
Ornament is crime. Adolf Loos. Adolf Loos, more like Adolf Loser. What a stupid thing to say. Ornament is beautiful. The only crime here is this statement. Someone needs to find where Adolf Loos is buried and just spit on his grave.
Measured drawing is rare to find, and hand drawing has become a side note. But it goes deeper than just knowledge and skills. Schools teach how to think and what to value. They set the paradigm. The Bauhaus, which changed architecture education forever, didn't just teach a style. It created a different worldview. And the worldview that is being taught now leads.
Yeah. Not an expert in Bauhaus design, but from what I understand of the people involved in Bauhaus, it's basically just communism as architecture. That might be a gross oversimplification, but I don't think it's wrong. That's kind of far spitting on someone's grave. In the case of Adolf Loos, it's deserved. And note that I'm not doing like those arseholes with chibi reviews of wanting to dig up his brother's grave, or, you know, some arsehole putting an image up on X about turning his brother's bones and corpse into a chair. So very big difference between all of that. But that is an awful thing to say, and also incredibly wrong. Bauhaus was made to be cheap, affordable, mass-producible, able to fill the void of the post-war German market as quickly as possible. May have started out then with the best intentions, but my God, did it get corrupted very quickly. Ornament represents the aspirations of the society that builds it, not an attempt to hide or distract from their failings. Yeah, all of this is trying to distract from the failings of society and make themselves look more successful and prosperous than they probably are. This is just ugly and lacks any sort of local character. I mean, I know it says here that this building is New York, and this one here on the right is Amsterdam. It's like the meme from The Office. I look at these and I just say, they're the same picture. Probably because more than likely they are. They might even be from the same architects.
Leads to more of the same. More industrial-looking environments, less humane cities, and more ugliness.
I mean, just
More
look at that.
industrial-looking environments, less humane cities.
What the hell is that? A gigantic golden thumb? Why the hell would you put that there? That just looks stupid. Forget modern architecture for a second. That's modern art, and it's stupid. That is so pointless. Get rid of that. See, we have the modern art on scene. Yes, and it's atrocious. Probably the toy of their wife scaled up. If you look at where a lot of the people in Bauhaus came from, it really shouldn't be surprising where they were heading. Yeah, communism.
Cities and more ugliness. It is time for change. And finally, the third crisis is automation. AI is coming for many kinds of work, and architects might not be safe. If you learn how to use Revit and AutoCAD only to produce standardized floor plans and industrial facade systems, there's a big chance that AI might take over your job. So what survives automation? Well, the things that require human judgment and intelligence, work coming from human hands, and human presence. Human authenticity will be the next currency. But the type of education that stimulates understanding of crafts
Maybe onto
is
something
dead
there.
or dying. So we have a failing, ugly built environment that doesn't last, schools that produce architects lacking real skills,
disgusting.
and AI that will soon replace them. The answer to this crisis might just start with a school.
Yeah.
Nadia
School on an old farm. People just get back to basics. There's something so good and so pure about all of that. At least it wasn't a giant golden cock that, at this point, that was probably their first idea. Yeah, probably. Probably. Gigantic phallic symbol in the middle of a public square. And probably the only thing stopping them was the authorities just threatening to put the kibosh on the entire project.
Everard and Noé Morin are anything but average. Nadia studied architecture and Noé political sciences, and together they founded La Table Ronde de l'Architecture back in 2020. The goal of the organization is to
Man, that was a pretty dark time to be starting something up like that. And yet, probably the perfect time to get it started. Sort of like how so many companies that we know of as these big corporations now got their start in the middle of, say, the Great Depression, it really makes you wonder how many more of these companies are out there that got their start in 2020 in one of the darkest periods of recent history at the height of a global pandemic. And how many more of those we'll see finally blooming and flourishing in the near future. Happy to cook some food, big baked potato, veggies, and a nice slice of pork loin. Oh, that sounds delicious.
Teach and promote traditional architecture. Now, what is traditional architecture? Most people automatically think of a style, like Baroque, Classical or Art Nouveau. Truth is, it's
They're all
none
lovely.
of those.
Traditional architecture is, for us, not just a style or an accumulation of styles. It is first and foremost a method based on the knowledge of the construction crafts and designed accordingly to the natural parameters of the direct environment and what Viollet-le-Duc would have called reason. And this actually...
I think he's probably alluding to that, but I would say it's more than just a method. And this chap here would probably agree, coming from a political science background. It's a philosophy. There's a lot of philosophical roots behind it as well. They're just sort of naturally, organically evolved over the centuries. Some pork sounds good. Haven't had bacon in a while. Should change that. You really should.
Actually produces the aesthetic results that we call traditional architecture. But let's not just start by the end saying we try to imitate that style, which is only a result or consequence. We start by studying the building techniques, how they work, how they function, in what place, in what environment do I build, and then it produces an aesthetics. So that's how we proceed, and that's what
more
I
than just
would call
superficial
traditional architecture.
You know,
That's good.
people call that style, but that's how it was born. It's through the study of the materials, the techniques, and then it's related to many other things, religion, local tradition, that we have ornamented symbolism, within our buildings.
Together,
They're wanting to, it looks like they're striving to harness and encapsulate and even bring to life local flavor once again. This is brilliant, what they're doing.
they started organizing summer schools, teaching small groups of students for a couple of weeks in the art of traditional architecture. First in the marvelous city of Bruges, later also in France, especially in the Alsace. The students learn how to observe, measure and draw by hand. They meet craftsmen and carve stone,
Really are
shape
going back to
timber
basics.
frames, and design plaster ornaments. They visit towns and villages and study the superb vernacular architecture that our ancestors built. All of this is meant to do one important thing: to teach real hard skills. But why is that so important?
At university, the main issue with modernist teaching is that they throw the students into the bath of design with having zero pre-requirements or vocabulary or previous knowledge of the construction techniques and of the architecture. So
Yeah, it's all presented sort of in the abstract, these abstract ideas, and then they're just sort of expected to make sense of that and wrap their heads around that, and it doesn't always work, does it?
So basically, students find themselves thrown into that bath without any notion of how to proceed, where to start, how to compose my house, what parameters to enter into this question. And
To really gain an appreciation for architecture, you've got to get your hands dirty. And to get your hands dirty, you've got to do what they're doing, which is teaching, or in the case of the students, learning the tricks and the works of the trade. So they're starting them out as tradesmen first, and then slowly graduating them up to architecture and to design. But to do that, you have to have an appreciation for the materials you're working with. And to get that, You've got to get your hands dirty and learn how to be a tradesman first. Cool as hell, honestly. It is. I love this. It's the sort of thing that's been missing with a lot of university education for a long time. Yeah, old school apprenticeship style. Absolutely.
So they are lost. We often have students, they are at a master's level, sometimes 5-year studies already done. Almost.
And their hands are as smooth as an infant's bottom, and they've never worked an honest day in their lives. Many such cases.
Architects, or sometimes architects even, and they are completely lost, and they tell us that after 5-year studies at university they get on the labor market and they don't know what to do when they get into an office of architecture, because they have not been taught practically to be operational and to be and to design, basically.
Any wonder how so many of them probably can't get jobs. Another example, like what we saw with the Leaflet music video, they're not being prepared appropriately. The university system has failed them. And a lot of this would fall, some of it would fall under engineering, but a lot of it would also fall under the arts. And so much of the university systems have just absolutely failed them. They've failed students. And I've turned so many architects into starving artists, and it's most unfortunate.
It's one of the greatest problems of architectural education at the moment. Having a diploma nowadays doesn't necessarily guarantee you having an understanding of how materials work in practice, or how to create buildings that last for hundreds of years.
That's almost as bad as students going through a public school system, graduating, and they cannot even read their own diploma. That is pretty much on the level of what they're talking about.
Although La Table Ronde has had many students at their summer schools, this alone wasn't enough. They needed something permanent. So they started looking for a place to settle, a place where La Table Ronde could begin a permanent school. They needed a place that was centrally located, at the heart of Europe, with plenty of craftsmen around, interesting architecture to study, and natural materials to build with. A place
I don't think you'd be able to find a lot of this in a country like the United States, unfortunately. Though you would certainly find many examples of, I guess you would call it classical American style architecture. Though I think at best, the most you could expect out of students with an American type version of this is people who know how to do, say, neo-colonial architecture, Art Deco, maybe, what's the name for that southern type of architecture? Antebellum. Here in the South and New England states, you can find a lot of what we call colonials. Yeah, colonial architecture and kind of antebellum type architecture. Art Deco. Perhaps a shaker style. Those are the sorts of things that I think you could expect out of an American version of this. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. There's a need for a revival of those in the United States as well. But I think what they're looking at here and what they're talking about is quite distinctly European types of architecture. Art Deco is a personal favorite of mine. It is quite beautiful. It's actually rather interesting to go into like some of the small towns across America and find, say, an old courthouse that was built in the style of Art Deco, and you wouldn't expect it in, you know, this like single stoplight town. And it's one of the most beautiful buildings and is kind of the crown jewel of that little town. New England also has a lot of Georgian architecture brought over by the English as transatlantic architectural exchanges did not end with independence. Likewise, some older styles can also be found there from before the Revolution, yeah.
It was beautiful and inspiring, and with ample space for expansion. Their eye fell on Westhoffen in the Alsace, where this stunning 17th century farm was for sale. And truly, it's the ideal location. Westhoffen is close to Strasbourg, a regional hub with its own airport and excellent train connections to Germany and Paris. The Alsace is located right in the center of continental Europe, relatively close to multiple countries. The region itself is truly unique as well. It has a strong local culture and a rich history, with Germany and France constantly taking it from each other. Compared to the touristy southern Alsace, Westhoffen in the north is still peaceful and affordable. Even better, there are still tons of craftsmen around, still practicing. This young stone carver, who lives and works nearby, showed us how he works, the tools he uses, and soon he will be involved in imparting his knowledge on the students. There's also carpenters. And there's even an old tile factory nearby, where local clay is turned into roof tiles that are used in the entire region. It was amazing to see how this old factory was still in use and how it turned raw materials into a beautiful local product. That this town was meant to be for La Table Ronde became clear when Nadia and Noé discovered an actual round table in the local forest. The signs couldn't be clearer.
That's
this
brilliant.
is the place.
Yeah. There's just something about it. It's just like this sort of ordained or a mandate from heaven, a sign from God that this is where they're supposed to do this. POV, you're the French border guard and you're hearing German marching music for the 7th time this decade.
There's another benefit of being in Westhoffen, because there's plenty of beautiful raw construction materials nearby. I visited the local sandstone quarry, Carrière Leugel. Here, I saw how multi-ton blocks
border
were being
guards is
freed
like,
from the
not
living
again.
metal. It reminded me of the fact that we could build so much more out of stone. This
really
quarry
slow-moving
isn't
big
even close to
chainsaw.
working at capacity. It has stone deposits for many decades, and it's the same beautiful stone they used to build countless structures with in Strasbourg. In the local woods grow oak trees that have supplied the beams for the region's half-timbered houses. But before the school can open, they face a huge challenge. They still have to renovate large parts of the farm.
They've got to fix their own school.
I have some exciting news. Our own online academy is now open. If you want to learn more about
you know
what
what?
makes cities beautiful
That's
and
not a bad
livable,
thing. That's
this
actually
course
that can
is for
be
you.
turned
We
into
go
something
into
good.
Thousands of years of urban history, the secrets of urban planning. There's a deep dive into traditional architecture. We have a brand new advocacy module, and there's a total neighborhood redesign case study. If you like this channel, you're going to love this. Find more information in the link below.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about, chat.
Advocacy module, and there's a total deep dive into traditional architecture. We have a brand new advocacy module,
Let me
and there's
pause
a total
right there. So we've got modernist crap here, and then
neighborhood redesign case study.
A vision for what it could look like once again. So all of that could be transformed into this, making use of the existing structures, or, you know, if need be, just tear those old monstrosities down and build all this up. This is gorgeous. There's just something so wonderful about all this. This is the sort of place you'd want to live and work and play in. Not whatever that was that we just saw.
If you like this channel, you're going to love this. Find more information in the link below. La Table Ronde's new headquarters is located at one of the main roads in town, close to the castle. This farmstead used to be occupied by butchers. The exact age of the building is unknown, but we know for sure that it dates to at least the 17th century. It was owned by a Jewish family named Blum, the ancestors of Leon Blum, 3 times Prime Minister of France. The farm building grew gradually around the central courtyard. Nadia shows me around.
So here is the future house of the students, where we will have a cafe.
One
and
annex
let's go
after
to
another.
the cafe just to see. So as you can see here, there is a lot of work. It's mostly demolition work, but very soon it will be like a lovely place where
It's
students
definitely a
can gather.
fixer-upper, isn't it?
So the rooms here on the ground floor, everywhere around the farm, there will be...
Well, unquestionably, it's got good bones. Built to please the eyes, built to last for the next generations. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the dream and the vision there. I hope one day the public toilets on the street corners are replaced with the stone or copper pissoirs of my childhood.
Dedicated to different workshop of crafts. So we will have carpentry over there, we will have stone carving and masonry here, and those would be dedicated to ceramic and also all kind of lime, render and mortar. So as you can see, those were all stable, so we need to do lots of things, create openings so that we have light and ventilation. As you can see here, we have a lot of work. We need to completely dismantle the facade. So here we are in the largest room of the farm that we will dedicate to a carpentry workshop, but also a workshop dedicated to woodworking. And this is the...
That definitely needs to be sealed up there. That looks like that could leak whenever it rains.
Building that will need the most work, because we need to repair the whole carpentry, the roof truss, the walls also. And here upstairs we will have some of the dormitories with a fantastic roof truss everywhere, because...
Don't know what the regulations are like here, but they could probably get the students to do a lot of this for them. In effect, the students would be paying to do a lot of this work. There's some opportunity here, and they'd learn something too.
The whole construction is made of oak. So this bridge is also dating from the 17th century, was restored through time. So the piece of wood are, have been changed.
I love these ornaments here. This is so lovely.
It's very typical from Alsace. It's to have bridge between two buildings. That was the valet house, and that was more like the house of the owner. So it was a way to circulate easily, but it's also a way to check if everything happened well.
As you can see, it's quite a project.
And
The first
do so quickly without, going down to the ground floor and potentially stepping in cow poo.
phase is to remove toxic and artificial materials. During summer, design works will take place. The complex needs dorms and workshops for students. It's important that all this takes place in time, because at some point they need to start teaching their curriculum. So what will a day in the life look like at this school?
It's kind of necessary for a school.
Wakes up at the sound of the church bells. He goes take his breakfast in the Associative Cafe in the midst of the old village
Also
on the high
perfect.
street. They're meeting.
Waking up to church bells. Having breakfast in a nearby cafe. That sounds heavenly. That sounds absolutely heavenly.
His colleagues, his fellow students, as well as the inhabitants of the village. Then he goes to his first lecture. This will be dedicated to the deepening of architecture history. We deliver lectures on symbolism, on the works of some prominent architects like Viollet-le-Duc. We deliver lectures on the history of the place, of the local traditions, etc. And around, let's say, the end of the morning, he takes his drawing materials and he goes to the village, in the center of the village, with a group, accompanied by teachers, where they dedicate some time to measure drawing. And then the afternoon is dedicated to the crafts and the manual work, and there the student will join a group. You have to imagine that the courtyard will be buzzing with activities, craftsmen all over the place, stone carvers, lime renderers, carpenters that will be instructing small groups of 5 to 10 students. At the end of the day, students is physically and mentally tired because
it's going to be a courtyard with a lot of hammering and a lot of chiseling going on, and you'll be able to hit it.
It has been a very demanding day, and he joins the rest of the group for a dinner on the terrace under the last rays of the sun.
And they will finish their day in the library, of course,
Yes.
reading books and discuss about important questions on architecture.
Yes.
As God intended it. No, that sounds like That sounds fantastic. That sounds like the experience that you would go off to uni for. That sounds like the sort of experience that, you know, our grandfathers and our great grandfathers would go off to if they, you know, if they were university going people. That's the sort of old school experience that you don't really get that anymore, do you? And it's sad. It's really sad. So good on them for trying to revive all of that. I mean, this sounds perfect. University may be largely a scam. If I had children and one of them wanted to be an architect, I'd send them off to this place. This place seems legit. This place seems like the real deal. It seems like a place that actually learns something. Now, this is good. They're onto something here.
It all sounds amazing, of course, but it gets better. Because the good thing about knowledge is that it can spread. Students at Westhoffen can take this knowledge and bring it to other parts of the world. And use it for new projects, new buildings, and perhaps new schools. Other legendary architecture schools, like the Beaux-Arts School and later the Bauhaus, had similar effects. Their graduates would spread over the world, take their new knowledge with them, and then practice it and teach it at home. And I think it's time for a refreshing alternative to what has been built for the last 80 years.
Yes.
This story is only just
very
beginning,
much so.
And it needs your help. La Table Ronde needs funding for lots of things, from the renovation and construction to books and tools. Otherwise, the path will be long before this can become a reality. With a crowdfunding campaign, the association hopes to collect 100,000 euros.
GoFundMe, that's
Find
good.
the link to donate below. You can also become a friend of the association. I put a link for that below as well. Finally, there's one question left. Why take all this effort in an age when everything is built industrially anyway? Well, it's because craftsmanship will never fully disappear.
Someone has to.
If anything, it should become more common. There needs to be an alternative to the ugly, lifeless industrial buildings we see everywhere.
Yeah.
There needs to be a new education, one that is not afraid to learn
That
from
sort of
the
thing
past
cannot go
and to
on.
apply old wisdom to future needs. One that challenges the students to move beyond the outdated and harmful dogma that defines today's architecture. And we're also doing this because we simply like it. As the saying goes, you can just do things.
You can just do things, and this lot, that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing things. Yeah, so much of modern architecture is just soul-sucking. You come into a place like this place heals your soul. This place will heal your soul. And we need more buildings and spaces that heal the soul.
And we're doing it to keep a tradition alive. As winter turns into spring in Westhoffen, the locals light a bonfire to celebrate new life. It reminds me of a quote: "Tradition isn't the worship of ashes, but the preservation of fire." And here in Westhoffen, that fire will burn brighter than ever. Thank you for watching.
This is good. Definitely have to post the links here in chat. And chat, go check out the video, and especially these first two links here. Click on those and share them. Click on those and share them, please. And if it's in the budget, consider supporting this school, because this is a good cause. This is a really good cause here.